Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy Matt here. We back with another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. So we're fresh off of UFC 287. Wow. 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 Your boy Israel Adesanya, in the words of Ariel Hawani. Your boy Izzy defeats Alex Pereira and regains the middleweight championship of the world. So first things first, let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room. I know I made a previous video in which my pick to win was going to be Alex Pereira. I was questioning the way Izzy was acting all throughout fight week. Now, in my defense, I will say that a lot of other people in the MMA space, MMA sphere, they were also noting that Izzy was acting very strange all last week during fight week. But nevertheless, you got to give the devil his due. The man went out there. The man not only regained his belt, but he finishes Alex Pereira by knockout in the main event in the second round. And the man said he was going to do it early. He said he was going to finish him, and he pulled it off. So I mean, you got to give the guy his credit, man. That's just what it is. So shout out to him. He is the middleweight champion of the world once again. Definitely cements him number two at least, if not number one, number two in the middleweight division all time. My personal pick for number one is Anderson Silva, but if you rank Izzy as number one, man, I can't hate on you. Go ahead and do your thing. But he wins the fight, outstanding fight. It was one of those fights where it kept you on the edge of your seat the entire time because you knew at any moment it could end. But what you just didn't know is that moment was going to come, and it was going to be Israel Adesanya who was actually going to end the fight instantly with that knockout. Great fight. I mean, when you break it down a little bit more, what was so interesting about this fight is Izzy literally had to go into the fire, go through the fire to defeat Alex Perez. Excuse me, I was about to say Alex Perez. I don't know who that is. Alex Pereira. Because here's the thing: in their first encounter in the UFC, at least, he tried to point fight and he tried to play that game. He would stick, he would move. He was catching with a lot of leg kicks, a lot of jabs, some good solid shots, some body shots and everything. But it seemed like his entire goal was to point fight his way to a victory over Alex Pereira. And as if you're watching this video, I'm sure you already know the first fight didn't go that well for him. Really, it went well until it ended in the fifth round. So it was going well until it wasn't. But at the end of the day, that's what he was trying to do. Now we come into this fight in the rematch in the UFC, and it was very interesting because it was almost poetic to see Izzy, the former bullied, become the bully in this fight. Now, with that, I know that narrative is going around. I wouldn't say he was bullying Alex Pereira at all, because I actually feel like Alex won the first round and was on his way to winning the second round until his lights were shut out, and that's just how that goes. But it was very interesting to see the switch that Izzy went through. In a sense, he goes from staying safe, stick him, staying safe, stick him. In his first fight to now, he was trading in the pocket. There was even a moment in which I'm not sure which commentator it was. It may have been Joe Rogan. I believe that's who it was. Where in the first round, Pereira basically sets up the pocket. He enters the pocket and he's throwing shots at Izzy. And you could see that Izzy had the opportunity to evade the pocket and leave to the side, but he chose to stand in there and trade. That, I believe, that portion of his game plan is truly what did Alex Pereira in. I'm not sure if Alex was expecting him to do that. I don't really know. But I will say at the end of the first round, I'm watching this fight with my wife, and at the end of the first round, I remember thinking in my head, I almost said to her, I don't like Alex's mentality, and this is what I'm saying. He had an outstanding first round. When he goes to sit on the stool between rounds, he's very animated, And he's almost over talking his coaches as to telling them that basically he's doing everything he needs to do and he's winning the fight. That overconfidence, one might argue, is what lost him the fight. And I remember thinking in between rounds, like, because I try to pick up on all the little details, all the little mannerisms of the fighters, because I truly believe that fighting is more of a mental game the majority of the time than it's ever physical. And it was so interesting to see that um, he was very excited. I wouldn't say anxious, but he was very hyped up, so to speak, and it was almost like he was lecturing his own corner that I'm working his leg, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. It's being translated by the translator from Brazilian, uh, but I kind of felt like, man, I don't know about I don't know about that. Because I kind of feel like, man, you shouldn't be that anxious. You shouldn't be that hyped up in your corner. The cornering, between rounds is a time to settle yourself, bring your heart rate down, lower your tempo, settle yourself, because if not, you're going to expend too much energy in between rounds. But what I really noticed there was just the overconfidence of him, that he was about to dominate Izzy. Now, Izzy claims that in the second round, when he backed up against the fence, that he was playing possum. And he kind of lured Alex Pereira in. Alex Pereira thought he was about to finish him. And he definitely did approach. He definitely stepped in the pocket, had Izzy backed up against the cage, much like their first fight in the UFC. And it looked like that he truly thought he was about to, finish Izzy. He was going in for the kill. But, Izzy covers up. He's trying to roll with the blows that he can. He catches one, maybe two to the body. Alex hits him with a huge knee. And it was just at the last second as he's peeking through, he just hits him with a right hand. And I mean, it staggered that shot almost knocked out Alex Pereira, staggered him, and he caught him with a second shot, and it was over. And it was done. New middleweight champion. And there you go. Israel at Adesanya wins that fight. And there you go. I mean, you got to give the man his credit. You got to give him his due. No matter how you feel about these fighters outside of the cage, when it comes to inside of the cage, man, you got to give them their due. He went out there. He did what he said he was going to do. He proved his point, at least for that night, that he was the better fighter. And there you go. So hats off to him. Round of applause to that man. He pulled it off. It was good. It was a great fight. It was very, I don't know. It was action packed. It only lasted for 2 rounds, but in those 2 rounds, it was riveting television. You know what I'm saying? So it was good to see. Me personally, I didn't enjoy his celebration that he pointed out Alex Pereira's son fell to the ground and kind of mocked Alex Pereira being knocked out the same way that Alex Pereira's son mocked him years ago. I didn't really agree with that. I mean, it's not a sticking point where I'm like, oh, I'll never watch an Izzy fight again. Oh, it wasn't really that big, but I didn't really like that considering, you're a grown man in his 30s. This kid, when he first did this, was 5 years old, and you kind of held that grudge all that time. But it's not that shocking. I mean, I grew up a fan of Michael Jordan, and at the end of the day, some of the best of the best, the greats of the greats, the GOATs, a lot of the time they tend to always find the slightest little thing, the slightest thing that they can interpret as disrespect, or in this case, it really was disrespect. However, it was by a 5-year-old, but it was disrespect, and they can use that, to propel them to greater heights within the sport or the game that they play. If you've ever studied Michael Jordan, for you younger folk that didn't grow up watching him, at the end of the day, man, that was his MO. You could pass Michael Jordan in the hallway, before the game even starts and be like, "Hey, Mike, you got a stick of gum?" Mike give you that look, and then the next thing you know, your team is down 35 points. Mike's got 44 on the board, and that's just what it is. Sometimes guys take it like that, and they need that little edge. They need something to propel them to go out there and do their best, or play at their best, or in this case, fight at their best. So it is what it is. I do kind of feel like it's somewhat hypocritical of a lot of people, in the sense that whether it's media, whether it's fans, whoever it might be, that I have a firm feeling that if Kobe Covington, you know, if he would have did something like that to one of his opponents, somebody that most people in MMA dislike, like a Kobe. A lot of people dislike John Jones, different people like that. I have a feeling that if they were in Izzy's exact spot and they would have did that celebration to their opponent's child, still with the same history of a long time ago, that child doing that, I feel like a lot of the MMA pundits, some of our favorites as well. And I don't want to name any names, but a lot of you're the best journalists in MMA. I have a feeling that they wouldn't have been so easy to let that slide. Had if let's say for example Kobe doesn't like, which this is true, he doesn't like Dustin Poirier. If Kobe Covington fights Dustin Poirier, beats him, and Dustin's daughter is out in the audience, and Kobe, displays something towards her or makes a motion towards her or something disrespectful, I seriously doubt that everyone in MMA is going to be like, well, that's just how it is. Izzy's one of the best celebrators in the game, and that's just what he does. And it's a fight game, and these type of things happen. If Conor McGregor would have did that to someone in Dustin's family, because I remember watching when he was calling out Dustin's wife while he had his leg broken in the cage, and there was a lot of outrage over that. But turnabout is fair play. The young man did that to Izzy when he was younger, so Izzy feels like he needed to get him back at 33 or 34 years of age. But nevertheless, it's just how it is. And Izzy did say he's a petty guy, and it is what it is. So that was that. It was a great fight card. Another fight that stood out to me was, man, Rob Font went out there, said, y'all must have forgot. You know what I'm saying? Rob Font went out there and knocks out Adrian Yanez. That was great. I'd pick Yanez to win, but Rob Font went out there. He was catching a lot of shots, and that eye was looking bad. That left eye of Rob Font was damaged. And had that went to the second round, a few more shots, I don't know if they would have let him continue to fight between the second and third round. I'm not sure about the Miami commission, so I don't know. Maybe they would have let him, maybe not. That eye was looking bad. Rob was getting pieced up by Yanez for a short period of time, but then it almost looked like he drew Yanez out into a firefight, and that was a fight that Yanez wasn't equipped for. Rob Font did his thing, got him out of there, and it was good to see Rob get back in the winning column. You could tell it meant a lot to him, and it was good to see him and his team celebrate, and that was pretty awesome to see. A lot of other good fights, a couple of questionable scorecards and everything, but all around good fights. We had the retirement of Jorge Masvidal. Shout out to Jorge Masvidal. I always been a huge fan of his. I felt like what happened was going to happen. I did not pick him to win that fight. I picked Gilbert Burns, but nevertheless, shout out to Masvidal. You always got to give it up to someone that sticks, not just follows their dream. We always give it up to people that follow their dream, but you have to give it up to people that stick with their dream. He was always labeled as a journeyman and this and that. And I remember watching Jorge fight way back in the day, in the Strikeforce days and everything. And he always seemed like a guy that had that talent, but you never knew if he was going to get his just due or his shot. So it was good to see him stick with it, even after all the losses and everything. He just kept going, kept going. He won that fight against Darren Till. He got that amazing knockout against Ben Askren. He stopped Nate Diaz, or at least doctor stoppage on Nate Diaz because of the cuts on his face. And there you go, man. BMF champion, and he was going. So, shout out to him. He's retired now. More power to him. He's a rich man now. It's awesome to see, from the backyards of Miami to, the arena there in Miami, where the Heat play, and he wins the fight. I'm sorry, he loses the fight, but he wins in the long run, man. He provided a better life for him and his family. So salute, shout out to that man. That was awesome. And yeah, all around just a great card. Just wanted to kind of drop in with you guys, see what was going on, kind of give you a couple of my thoughts. Later on this week, we have Arnold Allen stepping in there in the main event against Max Bless Holloway. That should be an interesting fight. Something's in my eye. Nevertheless, that should be an interesting fight. So can't wait to break that down, talk about that. And, that's what we got up for the weekend. It was a great weekend for me. As I mentioned in the last video, it's my birthday. It was awesome. Hung out all day, hung out with the family, and just played it cool, man. I didn't really go out too many places this year. Went out to eat with my father, and it was pretty cool. And outside of that, man, we just hanging out. So there you go. I appreciate you guys for watching these videos, joining me again for another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. And I will see you all next time. Peace.